Good evening and welcome to California Today. I'm Bill Thomas and here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Some people are wondering whether it's fair to ban or restrict companies like TikTok. A U.S. senator says restricting foreign threats is a matter of national security. Also in San Francisco, activists, neighborhood advocates, and city officials held a rally to show their support for making the city safer. They say drugs, crime, and homeless issues are plaguing the city. The U.S. Coast Guard is asking the public for help in their search for 3 missing Americans. Carrie O'Brien, Frank O'Brien, and William Gross were sailing from Mexico to San Diego earlier this month when they were reported missing after their boat failed to show up at a scheduled stop along the way. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, the trio left Mazatlan, Mexico on April 4th. Their plan was to stop at Cabo San Lucas on April 6th en route to San Diego, but there's no record of them ever arriving at Cabo San Lucas. Their sailboat, Oceanbound, is a 44-foot Lafitte. Mexican Navy officials have joined the U.S. Coast Guard in searching for the group throughout the waters off Baja, California. Anyone with information about the trio is asked to contact the Coast Guard at area code 510-437-3701. A follow-up to a story we shared with you last week. Some cities are now starting to implement bans against the use of TikTok on government devices. And now, on the national level, a U.S. senator is trying to ban TikTok and similar companies over security concerns. But some people are questioning whether the move is fair or if it hinders freedom of speech. NTD's David Lamb has the story.
U.S. Senate Bill 686, also known as the Restrict Act, aims to restrict foreign threats. It also requires the Department of Commerce to identify and refer to the president any covered holding, like stock or security, that poses a risk to U.S. national security and the safety of U.S. citizens. The president may then compel divestment of or otherwise mitigate the risk. U.S. Senator Mark Warner on Friday said he introduced the bill due to concerns over TikTok, a company under the Beijing-based ByteDance.
China law as of 2017, which requires any Chinese company, at the request of the Communist Party, that they can get everything. You know, unfortunately in China right now is Chinese tech companies, they're not obligated to their customers or their shareholders. At the end of the day, they have to be obligated to the CCP. And I think
he says 150 million Americans use TikTok each day for an average of over 90 minutes a day. He believes there's a national security concern that data is being collected and that the Chinese regime can use the app as a propaganda tool.
Regardless of what TikTok says, Chinese engineers are getting access to this American data. Now, has it been manipulated to date? I'm not saying that. But the idea that you could have this much data of 90 minutes a day of people, disproportionately young people, ultimately residing in Beijing.
But others see it as an attack on Asians and the Chinese American community. Speakers reference Singaporean businessman and entrepreneur Shou Tzu, who has served as CEO of TikTok since 2021.
We were troubled by the fact that there was a specific targeting of Mr. Chu and saying that he must be an emissary or an agent for the Chinese government. Notwithstanding the fact that several times during the hearing, he pointed out that he was a Singaporean citizen. It was a specific targeting of this notion of surveillance that could be offered by the Chinese and linking them to the person at the witness table.
In addressing the question about how the bill would protect freedom of speech, Warner said the problem lies with the fact that the company is based in a foreign country run by a communist regime.
I think there are times when national security, if you can make the case, and the same thing that needed to be made, for example, with Huawei, and we finally made the case, and now we're spending taxpayer money to rip out the equipment, and country after country is now deciding, there's a national security issue. And you could argue, telecom has First Amendment rights as well. But I think the burden will be on the government to show that there's a national security risk.
Meanwhile, on the local level, the Southern California city of Westminster recently banned TikTok on government devices, and Montana became the first state to pass legislation for a complete ban on the app. If signed into law, it would prohibit the use and download of the app within the state. So far, 37 states have taken some sort of action against TikTok. And in December 2022, Congress voted to ban TikTok from federal government-owned devices. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
We have more details now on the Bob Lee stabbing case. Court documents filed on April 14th reveal that investigators found a bloody kitchen knife in a parking lot. Authorities believe that knife was the one used in the fatal stabbing.
According to court documents, San Francisco homicide investigators interviewed Bob Lee's close friend, identified as Witness 1. He knew the Cash App founder for 10 years. A day before the murder, Lee invited his close friend to an apartment on the evening of April 3rd. There, they were drinking together with a female, assumed to be Nima Momeni's younger sister. Court documents reveal her marriage, quote, had possibly been in jeopardy. It's unclear if Lee and Momeni's sister had any romantic relationship. They left to go to Lee's hotel. There, his close friend noticed him and Momeni talking about Lee picking up his sister earlier. According to the friend, Momeni was asking Lee if his sister was doing any drugs. Lee had to reassure nothing inappropriate happened. Camera footage from the Millennium Tower shows Momeni and Lee getting into Momeni's white BMW together. They parked on Main Street and got out to talk. Camera footage caught the car quickly driving away following what appeared to be a scuffle between the two men. Lee was later found with 3 stab wounds, 1 in the hip and twice in the chest. One of them pierced his heart. To protect public safety, Momeni is being held without bail.
Also in San Francisco, concerned residents and leaders rallied on Sunday to speak about the city's issue with open-air drug dealing, drug use, as well as crime. While attendees advocated for a variety of solutions, one thing people agreed on was that something needs to be done to make San Francisco safer for everyone. NTD's Jason Blair was there and spoke to some of the speakers and attendees.
Drugs.
Save San Francisco was the theme at a rally in front of San Francisco's City Hall on Sunday. Activists, neighborhood advocates, and city officials showed their support to make the city's streets safer.
The people here that's living, that's unhoused, and the people that's on drugs, they need help. The residents of this community, of the Tenderloin, they need help. And the businesses, they also need help. And the city has to step up and start doing the right things.
J.J. Smith has been documenting drug, crime, and homeless issues in his neighborhood on social media. He says he sees overdoses and even people losing limbs due to drug addiction.
I've seen a lot of deaths. I've seen a lot of bodies getting mutilated, such as people losing limbs. I just had a lady that I tried to get to the hospital. She refused to go. But 3 weeks later, when she did make it, they took both her legs, and they could have been saved if she would have went then.
The event was attended by a variety of people, many with different solutions to the city's problems, but a common message was that in order to make progress, people need to work together as best as possible.
You know, I'm here to show my support. That doesn't mean I agree with everything that everybody's advocating, but I think the most important thing that was said today is we've all got to work together. Ultimately, we have to commit that we're going to stay in the conversation.
I think the reoccurring theme here today was that nobody wants to see drug use on their streets, and they don't want to see crime. It's really cut and clear as that.
Wynn was formerly incarcerated for dealing drugs. He has since turned his life around and has become an advocate for addiction recovery and making his home city a safer place, especially for children.
I see a lot of drug use. I see a lot of children being exposed to that drug use, and that is where I draw the hard line. Me growing up in a household that struggled with addiction, it really molded my life and molded the way I came out. And I write about that in my book, and over again, I see the correlation between some of the things that I was exposed to as a kid to the behaviors and stuff that I displayed as an adult.
One attendee shared how he was recently attacked while using an ATM machine.
I'm a victim. I'm not going to whine about it, but I'm going to do something about it, because the guy that victimized me was a tweaker and most likely was on fentanyl. And that is so addictive that they will do anything to get their next fix, including attacking a senior like me.
With the exception of one or two counter-protesters, most expressed agreement with getting the San Francisco police back to fully staffed levels. as well as harsher punishments for drug dealing and open-air drug use. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Last week, Arnold Schwarzenegger posted a video of his team filling a hole in the road. It became controversial after people claimed it was a pothole when it was actually a service trench owned by SoCalGas. And despite the promising series of storms, people have not forgotten about the threat of wildfires. One company has developed an early warning device that can detect smoke from a wildfire. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, Bill Thomas. As we saw last week, former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger filmed himself filling a giant pothole and posted it on social media this week. But some LA officials are not pleased and say that the pothole is actually a service trench.
Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger posted a video of himself filling a supposed pothole on the streets of Los Angeles last week. But an LA City spokesperson has recently come out to say this location is not a pothole. It's a service trench that relates to active permitted work being performed at the location by SoCalGas, who expects the work to be completed by the end of May. She added, as is the case with similar projects impacting city streets, SoCalGas will be required to repair the area once their work is completed.
Parental rights groups and advocates packed a California school board meeting last week to demand an end to a policy that keeps students' gender identity a secret from parents. However, the board still voted to uphold the policy.
Parents and advocates packed the Chico Unified School District's April 5th board meeting to demand an end to a policy that allows school staff to keep the gender identity of a student hidden from parents.
It is abundantly clear that we were lied to then, that there is, in fact, secrecy policy and guidelines in place that are practiced and have been for years. Now you're talking about excluding parents from their most natural right. Our Constitution guarantees that those rights that are given by nature and nature's God are to be protected.
Assembly Bill 1314, authored by Republican Assemblyman Bill Asaley, was introduced to give parents more authority over their children. During the school board meeting, many parents shared their personal accounts of the negative impacts they felt when schools allegedly left them out of gender-related conversations.
Last year, my 11-year-old daughter was in elementary school here at Chico Unified, and her elementary school transitioned her from female to male behind my back. Shortly before this happened, my father had recently passed away, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My daughter was distressed and began questioning her sexuality, so she decided to reach out to a wellness counselor at her elementary school. The day my daughter shared with her guidance counselor that she felt like a boy, the counselor immediately affirmed this new identity. My daughter told the counselor she wanted to tell me about her new identity. The counselor ignored her requests and did nothing to support her in letting me know what was going on at school.
Shortly after finding out about her daughter's transition, Regino filed a lawsuit that seeks to end the district's policy of secret gender transitions. She says the actions that the school board district took to exclude her from supporting her daughter was very damaging to her family. But trans activists disagreed with parents, including Lindsay Briggs, a college human sexuality professor and self-described queer woman.
As a college human sexuality professor, I have the joy of receiving the battered and bruised young adults who make it through a school system that's been warped by well-meaning but completely out-of-touch citizens who have butchered our education system because they're afraid of a changing society. Some people are not born male or female. That's a biological fact. I'm sorry, many of you, including our congressman, did not learn that in school. That's embarrassing.
Despite many parental concerns across the entire state of California, AB 1314 was blocked on April 10th by Democratic Assembly Education Committee Chairman Al Murasucci and will not be going forward through the legislative process. Murasucci claims the bill is bad policy that promotes hateful rhetoric towards LGBTQ youth. Meanwhile, Republican U.S. Representative Doug LaMalfa introduced a federal bill that would defund school districts that support secret gender transitions and gender-affirming practices.
This is a grave situation we're facing here. and how we've gotten to a place where we can interpret state policy as such in Chico, California, that keeping secrets from parents about their children's involvement at school, about their children's decisions that are so grave. Remember, these are minors who are making lifetime, life-changing decisions. We can contemplate these things as adults, but for the school to be helping to coerce children as minors who have so many other lifetime decisions they have to make after they're 18 years old. Key decisions that are not allowed to make until they're 18 years old, in some cases 21 years old. And we want this to happen at a ripe young age of 11, 12, 10, 9. Schools have really overstepped their bounds, overstepped their responsibilities.
During the meeting, parental activists were seen continuously heckled and interrupted by trans activists. Many attendees pleaded with the school board for security. The chairman of the school board is now being criticized and questioned for not stopping the alleged hostile, verbal abuse, and threats directed towards concerned parents attending the meeting. The school district voted 3-2 to stick with its current student privacy policy and voted 3-2 to reject a counter resolution that would have made parental inclusion mandatory.
Wildfire has been a long-standing and frequent threat in California. With rising temperatures and a recent boom in vegetation, there's also a growing concern for a potentially devastating wildfire season this summer. But a Bay Area startup says they have a solution with their early-stage outdoor fire detection device.
Vasia Trasman was only 17 in high school when the Napa Valley wildfire tore through the state's wine country. When he saw entire communities burned to the ground, billions of dollars in damage, toxic smoke lingering for months, he asked a simple question.
Why is there an indoor smoke detector that exists and it's literally in every single building all around the world, whether it's my house, whether it's an industrial building, whether it's any building, right? But there's nothing that stops fires outdoors.
With a passion in engineering, Vasia came up with the idea of combining multiple sensors in one solar-powered device to recognize outdoor fires early. Vasia demonstrated this concept at the Intel's International Science Fair, winning the top award. Joining forces with veteran tech entrepreneur Michael Bockwald, Vasia launched a startup company in San Francisco in 2020 and turned his concept into a real product called Torch Sensors.
I guess it seemed like the perfect thing to create a company around, something that would be a fantastic impact for the world.
One key challenge they have to overcome is to solve the connectivity problem for sensors to operate in a remote outdoor environment.
So I'm proud to say that our sensors don't require any type of wireless or cellular connectivity. The way they work is they transmit information to each other in like a daisy chain configuration with radio waves.
Like any alarm system, the ultimate goal for the sensors is not to trigger false positives and only alert users of the actual wildfires. Vasia and his team spent 6 years in development and testing to get the multiple sensors work seamlessly together.
Because there's so many different variables packed into each device, all of those variables act together to calculate a risk score of a current fire. Rather than just looking at, let's say, like a heat signal, like a random heat signal somewhere in the field, we actually analyze dynamically how it is changing. And then in terms of the visible spectral analysis, which is the second most important variable we use, we're actually able to filter out all of the other signals except for fire based on spectral characteristics of the image. So basically we're able to compare two images with these spectral filters on the cameras and then filter out everything surrounding a flame. And then the last aspect is the gas sensors, and the gas sensors are calibrated in real time to the current temperature and humidity readings, which means that even if you have environments that they could be really high humidity or it could be a very hot day, that traditionally could offset gas sensor readings just because of the environment changing. Our sensors continuously adapt to that to provide the most accurate result all the time.
When it comes to fire, human detection can often be too late when every second counts. That's why Tresman says torch sensors are linked to an app to send immediate notifications with a unique shrill sound when users are on the go. The company is currently taking pre-orders for the first limited batch of 100,000 users, who will be the first to receive the sensor product in the first quarter of next year.
The NBA playoffs have begun. Let's check in with NTD's Tyler Castillo for your sports roundup.
Welcome everyone, I'm Tyler Castillo and I'm taking you through the California Today Sports Roundup.
De'Aaron Fox scored a game-high 38 points in his NBA postseason debut and teamed with Malik Monk for 28 fourth-quarter points. The Sacramento Kings edged the visiting Golden State Warriors on Saturday night in Game 1. The game marked the Kings' return to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. Monk capped a 32-point performance off the bench, and when Stephen Curry misfired on an open straightaway three-pointer at the Horn, the Kings celebrated a win in their first-ever playoff game against their Northern California rival. Fox shot 13 for 27 from the field and added 5 assists and 3 steals. Monk did much of his damage at the foul line, going 14 for 14 to complement an 8 for 13 night from the field. Curry finished with 30 points and Klay Thompson 21 for the Warriors, but Golden State's shot was just 16 for 50 as a team. Kings 126, Warriors 123. Rui Hachimura came off the bench scoring a team-high 29 points. LeBron James and Anthony Davis both posted double-doubles, and 7-seeded Los Angeles scored a road win over Memphis to spark the Lakers to a 1-0 series lead. In his 6th career playoff game, Hachimura erupted for a playoff career high in scoring. All 5 of his made three-pointers came in the second half. He was one of the 4 Lakers to score at least 21 points, joined by Austin Reeves with 23, Davis added 22 points, and James scored 21 points. Los Angeles used 2 big runs in the fourth quarter to take command. The latter, a game-ending 15-0 outburst 3 minutes after Memphis All-Star Ja Morant went to the locker room with a hand injury. Lakers 128, Grizzlies 112. Kawhi Leonard poured in 38 points during his first playoff game in 22 months, leading Los Angeles past host Phoenix in Game 1 of their Western Conference first-round series. Leonard was 13 of 24 from the field and added 5 rebounds and 5 assists in his first postseason contest since tearing the ACL on his right knee. Eric Gordon added 19 points for the 5th-seeded Clippers. Kevin Durant had 27 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in his first playoff game for the 4th-seeded Suns. It marked the first time Phoenix lost in 9 games with Durant on the court. Clippers 115, Suns 110.
And thank you for tuning in for the Sports Roundup for today.
That's all we have for you tonight, and would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday right here at 8:30 p.m. Also, make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find that at ntd.com/California-Today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Also, if you could, please send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, and that's california.today@ntd.com. I'm Bill Thomas, and for all of us here in the newsroom, have a great night.